I want to tell you a story about a boy who was told he had no imagination, a boy who was fired from his job because his boss said he lacked creativity, a boy who went bankrupt, was betrayed by a business partner, and watched everything he built disappear. And today, his name is on the most magical place on earth. His company is worth over $200 billion. His characters are loved by every generation in every country on the planet. His name was Walt Disney, and his story will change how you think about failure, rejection, and the incredible power of refusing to stop dreaming. Chapter 1: The Farm Boy Who Drew on Walls. Walter Elias Disney was born on December 5, 1901, in Chicago, Illinois. He grew up on a small farm in Marceline, Missouri. His family had very little money. His father, Elias Disney, was a strict and sometimes harsh man who moved the family from place to place looking for work. Life on the farm was hard. Walt and his older brother Roy woke up before dawn every day to deliver newspapers for their father, in freezing winters, in pouring rain, without pay. Their father kept every cent. But even as a small boy, Walt saw the world differently. While other children played in the fields, Walt drew pictures. He drew on everything, on paper, on walls, on the side of the family's house. When he ran out of paper, he used toilet paper. When he ran out of that, he drew in the dirt with a stick. His father did not understand. He told Walt that drawing was a waste of time. He told him to focus on real work. He told him that art would never put food on the table. But Walt could not stop. Something inside him needed to create. Something inside him saw pictures and stories that nobody else could see. And this is the first lesson. The thing that makes you different is not a weakness. It is your gift. The world will try to correct you. It will try to make you practical, serious, and ordinary. But if something inside you refuses to stop creating, refuses to stop imagining, refuses to stop dreaming, that is not a flaw. That is your compass pointing you toward your purpose. Chapter 2: The Boy Who Wanted to Make People Smile. When Walt was a teenager, his family moved to Kansas City. He enrolled in art classes and started drawing cartoons for his school newspaper. He loved making people laugh. He loved watching their faces light up when they saw one of his drawings. At 18, he applied for a job as a cartoonist at the Kansas City Star newspaper. He wanted it more than anything. He prepared his best drawings. He walked into the office with hope in his heart. They rejected him. The editor looked at his work and told him he was not creative enough. He said Walt lacked imagination and had no good ideas. The boy who would create Mickey Mouse, Snow White, Cinderella, and the most beloved characters in history was told he lacked imagination. Let that sink in for a moment. And this is the second lesson. The people who reject you do not know your future. They can only see your present. They see a nervous teenager with a portfolio of simple drawings. They cannot see the empire inside your mind. They cannot see the millions of smiles your work will create. They cannot see who you are becoming. When someone tells you that you are not good enough, they are not making a fact. They are making a guess. And most of the time, they are wrong. Chapter 3: Laugh-O-Gram and the First Failure. After being rejected, Walt did not quit. He found work at an art studio where he learned about animation for the first time. He was fascinated. The idea that you could make drawings move, that you could bring pictures to life. It consumed him completely. In 1921, at the age of 20, Walt started his own company. He called it Laugh-O-Gram Studio. He hired a small team of animators and started creating short animated fairy tales. For a while, things looked promising. They made several short films. Walt poured every ounce of his energy into the work. He slept at the studio. He barely ate. He gave everything he had to his dream. But the company ran out of money. They could not find enough distributors. The bills piled up. And in 1923, Laugh-O-Gram Studio went bankrupt. Walt Disney was 21 years old. His first company had failed. He was broke. He could not afford food. He ate cold beans out of a can. He could not afford rent. At one point, he was so poor that he reportedly ate dog food to survive. Most people would have taken this as a sign. Most people would have said, "I tried, it did not work, time to get a real job." But Walt Disney was not most people. And this is the third lesson. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every person who has ever built something extraordinary has a story of failure that came first. The bankruptcy, the rejection, the moment when everything fell apart. That is not the end of the story, that is the beginning, but only if you refuse to stop. Chapter 4: A Suitcase and a Dream. After his company failed, Walt made a decision that would change history. He packed a small suitcase with a few clothes, his drawing materials, and $40, and he bought a one-way train ticket to Hollywood. He arrived in Los Angeles with almost nothing, but he had his brother Roy, who was already living there, and he had an idea. He was going to make animated films. Walt and Roy set up a tiny studio in their uncle's garage. Walt drew the animations, Roy handled the business side. Together, they started the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. Their early work was modest, small animated shorts, nothing that would change the world, but Walt was learning, he was getting better, he was refining his vision, and he was about to create something that would capture the hearts of audiences everywhere. He created a character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was charming, funny, and audiences loved him. Walt had finally created a hit. He was making money, he was building a future. And then it was all taken away from him. Chapter 5: The Betrayal. In 1928, Walt traveled to New York to negotiate a better deal with his distributor, a man named Charles Mintz. Walt expected a raise. He expected recognition. He expected to be rewarded for his success. Instead, Mintz told Walt that he was cutting his pay, and if Walt did not accept the lower rate, Mintz would take Oswald away from him, because Mintz owned the rights to the character, not Walt. But it got worse. While Walt was in New York, Mintz had secretly hired away most of Walt's animators. They were already working for Mintz. Walt's own team had been taken from him behind his back. Walt was devastated. He had lost his character, he had lost his team, he had lost everything. Again. On the long train ride back to California, Walt sat in silence. He stared out the window. He felt the weight of yet another failure crushing his chest. But somewhere on that train ride, something happened inside Walt Disney. Instead of breaking, he started sketching. He started drawing a new character. A little mouse with big round ears, red shorts, and an infectious smile. He originally wanted to call him Mortimer Mouse. His wife Lillian told him that was a terrible name. She suggested Mickey. And Mickey Mouse was born, not in a moment of triumph, not in a moment of confidence, in a moment of total loss, on a train heading home from the worst day of Walt Disney's career. And this is the fourth lesson. Your worst moments can become your greatest creations. The betrayal, the loss, the moment when someone takes everything from you, that is not the end. That is the raw material for something new, something better, something that could not have existed without the pain that came before it. Mickey Mouse would never have been born if Walt had never lost Oswald. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the best thing that happens to you. You just cannot see it yet. Chapter 6: The Mouse That Changed the World. Walt did not just create Mickey Mouse, he revolutionized the entire industry. In 1928, he released Steamboat Willie, one of the first animated films with fully synchronized sound. Audiences had never seen anything like it. A cartoon character that moved with the music, that whistled and danced and made sounds. People were astonished. Mickey Mouse became a sensation overnight. Within a year, Mickey was the most popular cartoon character in America. Within 2 years, he was known around the world. But Walt did not stop there. He was never satisfied with what he had already done. He was always looking forward, always pushing boundaries, always asking, what if we could do something that has never been done before? In 1937, he released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was the first full-length animated film feature in history. Everyone told him it would fail. The Hollywood press called it Disney's folly. They said no audience would sit through a 90-minute cartoon. They said it was financial suicide. Snow White became the highest-grossing film of 1938. It earned over $8 million, an enormous amount at the time. It proved that animation was not just for short cartoons before the real movie. Animation was the real movie. Walt followed Snow White with Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. Each one pushed the art form further. Each one told stories that made audiences laugh, cry, and dream. And this is the fifth lesson. Do not let other people's limits become your limits. When everyone says something is impossible, that is not a fact. That is a reflection of their imagination, not yours. The people who called Snow White a folly could not imagine what Walt could see. Their lack of vision was not his problem. Your dreams will always be too big for some people. That is fine. Those dreams were not meant for them. They were meant for you. Chapter 7. The War, the Strike, and the Darkness. But success did not make Walt's life easy. In fact, some of his darkest years came after his greatest triumphs. In 1941, many of his animators went on strike. They wanted better pay and working conditions. Walt took it personally. He felt betrayed. He had built the studio from nothing, and now his own people were turning against him. The strike divided the studio and left deep wounds that never fully healed. Then World War II changed everything. The United States government took over most of the Disney studio to produce military training films and propaganda. Walt's creative projects were put on hold. The feature films he had planned were delayed or canceled. The studio lost money for years. Walt fell into a deep depression. He suffered from anxiety. He had emotional breakdowns. The man who made the world smile was struggling to find a reason to smile himself. But he kept going. He kept creating. He kept dreaming. Even in the darkest moments, Walt Disney refused to let the darkness win. And this is the sixth lesson. Success does not protect you from pain. Money does not protect you from sadness. Fame does not protect you from loneliness. Everyone struggles. Everyone has dark chapters. The difference is not whether you face darkness. The difference is whether you keep moving through it. If you are going through a difficult time right now, know this: it is temporary, not because life is fair, but because life keeps moving. And if you keep moving with it, you will eventually find the light again. Chapter 8. The Craziest Dream of All. After the war, Walt Disney had an idea that everyone thought was completely insane. He wanted to build a theme park. Not a small amusement park with a few rides and some cotton candy. A fully immersive world where families could step inside the stories they loved. A place where fantasy became reality. He called it Disneyland. Every banker he approached said no. Every financial advisor told him it was a terrible idea. His own brother, Roy, thought he had lost his mind. The entertainment industry laughed at him. Theme parks at that time were dirty, cheap, and associated with carnival workers and petty crime. Nobody believed a theme park could be magical. Walt mortgaged his house, he borrowed against his life insurance, he sold his vacation home, he poured every dollar he had into his dream. He risked everything again. On July 17, 1955, Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California. The opening day was a disaster. The asphalt was still wet. Rides broke down. Water fountains did not work. There were too many people and not enough food. The press called it Black Sunday. But Walt did not panic. He fixed the problems. He improved the park. And within 7 weeks, 1 million people had walked through the gates of Disneyland. Within a year, it was the most popular tourist destination in the world. And this is the 7th lesson. The bigger the dream, the louder the doubters. If your dream does not scare you, it is not big enough. If nobody thinks you are crazy, you might be playing too safe. The greatest things ever built were built by people who were called insane right up until the moment they succeeded. Chapter 9. A Man Who Never Stopped Creating. Walt Disney did not slow down after Disneyland. He kept pushing forward. He kept dreaming bigger. He pioneered new technologies in filmmaking. He won 22 Academy Awards, more than any other individual in history. He created Mary Poppins, which became one of the most beloved films ever made. He planned an experimental city of the future called Epcot, a place where technology and community would come together to solve real-world problems. But on December 15, 1966, Walt Disney died of lung cancer. He was 65 years old. He never saw Epcot completed. He never saw his vision fully realized. His brother Roy, who had stood beside him through every failure and every triumph, made a promise. He would finish what Walt had started. Roy came out of retirement and supervised the construction of Walt Disney World in Florida. When it opened in 1971, Roy insisted it be called Walt Disney World, not Disney World, Walt Disney World, because this was his brother's dream, and the world needed to know whose dream it was. Roy Disney died just 2 months after the park opened. His final act on Earth was keeping a promise to his brother. And this is the 8th lesson. What you build can outlive you. Your work, your dreams, your creations, they do not die when you die. If what you build is real, if it is honest, if it comes from a place of love, it will continue long after you are gone. You are not just building for today. You are building for people you will never meet, for generations that do not exist yet. That is the power of a dream that is bigger than one lifetime. Chapter 10. Why this story matters to you. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, that is an amazing story, but I am not Walt Disney. I do not have his talent. I do not have his resources. What does his story have to do with me? Everything. Walt Disney did not start with talent. He started with crayons and dirt. He did not start with resources. He started with $40 and a suitcase. He did not start with support. He started with a father who told him to stop dreaming. Everything he became, he built from nothing, less than nothing. If a farm boy from Missouri who was told he had no imagination can build an empire that brings joy to billions of people, then what excuse do any of us have? You might not build a theme park, you might not create a beloved character, but that is not the point. The point is this: you have a dream inside you right now. Maybe it is a career change. Maybe it is a creative project. Maybe it is learning a new language. Maybe it is building something that does not exist yet. And right now, that dream feels impossible. People around you do not understand it. Maybe they are telling you it is a waste of time. Maybe they are telling you to be realistic. Maybe they are telling you that you lack imagination. They told Walt Disney the same thing. Your dream is not foolish. Your dream is the most important thing about you. It is the part of you that refuses to settle for ordinary. It is the part of you that knows deep down that you were made for something more. Do not let anyone take that from you. Not your boss, not your family, not your fear, not even yourself. Chapter 11. Keep dreaming. Before we finish, I want to leave you with something that Walt Disney said. Something simple, something that I hope you will carry with you long after this video ends. He said, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." Notice that he did not say dreams come true for special people. He did not say dreams come true for talented people. He said dreams come true for courageous people, for people who are brave enough to chase them, even when the world says no. Walt Disney was fired. He went bankrupt. He was betrayed. He was told he had no imagination. He was called crazy. He lost everything more than once. And every single time, he got back up. He dusted himself off, and he started drawing again. Because that is what dreamers do. They do not stop. They cannot stop. There is something inside them that is bigger than fear, bigger than failure, bigger than any rejection letter or bankruptcy notice or closed door. And that something lives inside you too, right now, at this very moment. Whether you feel it or not, it is there, waiting for you to give it permission to come alive. So here is my challenge to you. Whatever dream you have been putting off, whatever idea you have been afraid to start, whatever vision you have been keeping locked inside your head, take one step toward it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. It does not have to be a big step. Walt started with a stick drawing in the dirt. You can start with something just as small. Write the first page, make the first call, take the first lesson, draw the first sketch. Because every empire, every masterpiece, every world-changing creation started with one small, brave, imperfect step. And you are one step away from beginning the most incredible chapter of your life. Keep dreaming, keep creating, keep believing. The world needs what only you can imagine. I will see you in the next video.